at the time, I made a list of all the beautiful things that happened because of the theft, the wire theft. And, whether it was going to the oil and davening, like really, really davening, whether it was checking all the mezuzahs in the house, whether it was adding shiurim, whatever it was, certain things that, it was a beautiful list of things that, okay, so whether or not the money comes back, we already have beautiful things that happen because of it. If the money comes back, gravy, that'll be pretty cool. But the pilot came back.
I'm Yossi Kamen. Welcome to Among Chassidim by Der Herr, an ongoing farbrengen about life as a chassid, our vibrant connection with the Rebbe, and inspired living shaped by the way he teaches us each and every day. Hi Mandy, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay. It's you've been very busy lately, I think, no? You middle of buying a building for your Chabad house.
Baruch Hashem. Very true, very true.
But you also told me something interesting, that you have a new Seder Halimud.
That is
personally.
True.
What you want to remind me what that is exactly?
We're jumping straight in.
There's no other way.
I got you.
I have a question about it. That's why I'm asking.
Go ahead. First, I should talk, and then you ask your question.
Or I can tell everyone what. I mean, I think what you told me was that you made achlata a few months ago to learn for a few hours every day. Is that accurate? Is that true?
So I'm like, I need to do a preamble before this whole conversation as we start as this podcast. Like, you're jumping right in. The whole thing is uncomfortable, if I can use that term. I was thinking about it as I'm getting ready for this morning, and I think the whole concept of a podcast is like Hepech Kol Chassidus, but like a big but, that ever turn the whole Chassidus on its head, and it's like the whole Dor Hashvii. Why?
Why is it Hepech Chassidus? Start with that.
Up until Dor Shishi, meaning if you would come to someone back in the day and say, "Hey, I want you to get on a platform, whatever it is, and talk about anything," you can't imagine anybody doing this. This is the Hepech of a whole concept of, I don't know. It doesn't.
Are you saying because of the concept of bittul, like Vadbinich, who am I?
The whole influencer Instagramization of the world is not in sync with of things we stand for. I think the Rebbe changed that around. At Sibyl is often Nerverin, and not just turned it around, but ran with it and celebrated it. So I don't know if it's supposed to come natural. I don't know if it requires a skafia to go down this path and go ahead and do it. Just recognizing the discomfort in the platform and how it's and the conversation. Kaviyach, we're having it's just the two of us sitting here in our respective hole in the walls and bull shoving one with the other, and then we're gonna let at least my wife and your wife listen in. Maybe my mother, your mother-in-law will listen in, and we'll have maybe a couple. What I hear, the first few podcasts between you and Joe Rogan, there were 5 million people that listened between the two of you together.
100%. But I think in general, the idea of when someone asks you to do something, many people, their instinct is to say, "Nah, who am I? We want you to farbring." I don't know. Let's say, "Who am I? I don't have anything to say." I think if you are a chassid of Dor Hashvii, if someone asks you to do something, what we learn from the Rebbe is, of course, I'm going to do it.
Right. Hence, I'm here.
Yeah. And no, I think
I'm just sharing with you the brain noise that I went through in the last few days as I'm prepping for this. I'm like, this is the craziest idea ever to have this conversation. And listen, if it can help one other person, and all I have to give up is a few hours of my time, then that's a productive afternoon.
Okay, so thank you for the disclaimer, and everyone should know that you're only doing this for the kavanah and for the cause. So
100%.
That's why we asked you. Someone that wants to do it, we don't want him on.
I got you.
So back to my original
Now
question.
with this disclaimer, ask me anything you want, and please, I'm happy to share.
So what's with the Seder Halimud? What's going on?
So how far back should I go? My Seder Limud is like this. You want me to get so vulnerable so quickly? My Seder Halimud. So currently at the Baruch Hashem, I get up in the morning, put my kids on the bus, and from 7:30 till 10:15, I daven and learn. And then from 10:15 to 11:15, I go to Starbucks, sit in their lounge area, make phone calls. I try to come in the office not earlier than 11:15.
And that's a significant amount of more learning that you have done that you're doing than in the past. I'm saying it's a few hours.
I was sitting by the oil, by the kinos, a bunch of guys, and we were amazed by the Litvische gang of, I sit and have a Seder, the first Seder, the second Seder, and the businessmen, they sit and they learn and they learn Torah for a couple hours, and then they walk in, and these real estate people and these business people, they pride themselves in their lack of being in the office. Now, as a shliach, as a askin, as a person that our purpose is to interact with other people, it might seem counterintuitive, maybe even like against my shlichus. But I was intrigued by the concept, and around the table we committed to learn a little bit more and to shut off the phone, to not be engaged in Avedas Haklal for the first chapter of the day, and then engage a little later and see where that takes you in the in your effect, in your impact, in your fundraising, etc. So
I brought up the building on purpose.
Go ahead.
Because at the same time that you made this hachlata to add in your limud Torah, what's called Mivtza Torah for now, that's the same time when that's the same time that you're buying a building, and Seichel Hadyashar or whatever Balabatasha Seichel would tell you, what do you mean? I have to raise X amount of money for this new project. I have to double down. I have to work harder. And you're doing something which Apiseichel may be counterintuitive by saying, Dafka, now I'm going to learn extra hours. Or I think you made that achlata to learn before you got into this whole thing with the building. So maybe Adarabba, it's connected very much.
Yeah. Putting it in that context is very interesting to see how they worked out together. I don't know, was it 6 months now? Well, it was actually originally till 10 o'clock, and then for my birthday, I added 15 minutes to go till 10:15. But a incremental growth in that area has not had less of an effect. It's been it's opened up new blessings in our meisid, in my life, etc.
So I've been thinking a lot about this whole concept. It seems to me that one of the Yesedis, I was listening to Sikha in the Sheikh Abad, the Rebbe says there was this Sfiras Sfiri of Yesed. So the Rebbe's translating Yesed as foundation. The Rebbe says it in English. And the Rebbe says there's Yesed HaYesedis, and the Rebbe uses the word foundational princip, I guess like a foundational principle. What is that principle? And that's it's in Bitachon. The Rebbe is talking about Parnasa over there. I think there's a kav that goes through the Rebbe's, whatever you call it, teachings from the Rebbe specifically about Bitachon. This takes a very, very strong and central role by the Rebbe. And all of the things, I was just speaking to someone about college, right? That the Rebbe did not advocated not to go to college. And one of the things that the Rebbe said is because of the influence in college, and that's 100% part of it and one of the factors. But that's also, to me at least, not the main point. And it's especially relevant today when people say, "What do you mean? Do we have online colleges and this and that?" The main factor of the Rebbe's approach about college, for example, there's many other examples, I'm just using this as an example, is the idea that the Rebbe wanted to break the mold of the American way of life that we're worried from when the kid's a little kid about how he's going to make a parnasa.
Right.
And it's that that mold that the Rebbe was trying to break, not for the sake of breaking it, but for the sake of building up the real Yesod, which is Emunah Bitachon the Eibishter. You have to do what's right. And if it's not right to go to college, you don't need it. So in your case, I saw Rabbi Kana Shmatkin used to have hanging in his office a Yechidus, and the Rebbe says, not Yechidus, I don't know who it's to, the Rebbe says, an askin, what does it mean as an askin Siburi that doesn't have a kvias itum l'teira? So if you're a shliach, if you're every yid, you have to have a kvias itum l'teira. But frat, if you're a shliach of the Rebbe, what does it mean that you're not learning? I was once by Fabrengen and someone was money. Do you learn every day an hour of chassidus? Alibet denafshe? Like if you don't do that, so not only is it not a deterrence or in the way of your fundraising, it's your success in your shlichus and your fundraising part of it is dependent on this, right? Is that
so? And everyone's in a different stage in their life. Kind of hard if you have a bunch of kids under the age of 5 and you can't sleep at night until you get out of bed in the morning and you can barely put your pants on. Then it's hard to set a seder of learning. I know for myself, it took many years to get to a place of actually wanting to learn and make a seder of learning. Not too long ago, I was not. I was in that place. Life was not just too hectic, but my brain was too hectic. And if only I could get to the office before 9 o'clock, and if only I can work extra hours, and if that, it wasn't just a lack of it was just a total dysfunction of the way things were working, of my just the chaos of life, and it takes time to actually get to a place. But you make a good point that once the foundation is on Bitachon, once the foundation is on the Eibishter's one providing, and I have to work accordingly to strengthen that part of my self, of my relationship with the Eibishter, then other things will fall in on top of that. The shlichus environment, the pressure of shlichus, which can be overwhelming. On one hand, the business side of it doesn't easily go in the way of Bitachon. The pressure of covering the bank and the running of an organization, the running of your house, the running of your finances, all that is just, it very easily, it doesn't have to naturally go the course of Bitachon. It just, the harder I work, the longer hours, the more pressure I put on myself, the more I'll produce. Until it doesn't work anymore, until until you realize that solution doesn't actually have fruits. It doesn't play itself easily to have just more productive life. When you start building that foundation, you say it how you say this, life is just simpler. Life is a lot easier when I was going to say when the Eibush is in charge, but he's in charge anyways. Life's a lot easier when I can get on that bandwagon of recognizing, listen, I don't know where the line between hishtadlus and Bitachon laws, where's too much hishtadlus, where's too little hishtadlus. That's, I guess, a lifelong balance of how to walk that tightrope. But sometimes err on the side of too much hishtadlus, sometimes on too much Bitachon, and you figure it out over the course of your life. But this limud hatera thing has not brought down any revenue or any productivity.
Right. It's such an important thing because, well, I mean, I mentioned that the Rebbe was talking about, breaking the American mold. That mold exists very much in today's society. And talking about the Frum world and the Lubavitch world, I mean, I speak to young people that are telling me that they're concerned about how can you not get an income or figure out an income even when they're not even married yet, because you need a few $100,000 to live as a frum person.
Right.
And if but basically, it's true. Our lives don't really make sense. The amount of responsibility that we have, the amount of costs that we have, the tuition, the amount of children that we have, it actually doesn't compute. It doesn't actually make sense. And if you want to make sense of it all, that's an exercise that you may not be successful at because it doesn't make sense.
There's no way to add it up. Right.
So I'm just thinking that it's really, really important that from a very young age we cultivate this type of feeling amongst dafka young people, because if you think life's complicated now and you're worried about what's going to happen in a few years, imagine when you're in it and you actually do have to deal with all of this. And if you haven't built those bitachon muscles based on what it says in Torah, what it says in Shar Bitachon, and what it says in the Rebbe Sichos, and what it says in Chassidus, then you have no tools. You need that tool. And by the way, it's not only financial; it's in everything. It's shidduchim. Your mother, my mother-in-law, has a personal story that the Rebbe told her to learn Shar Bitachon. I'm not sure if I have permission to say the whole story. Do you know?
As a representative of the family, please share.
I'm obviously going to say it wrong because,
I'll correct you.
But I believe the story is that she was in Beshrifka or seminary, or maybe at that point she was older. She was very past that. I mean, she had been in Beshrifka, and at a certain point she was very down about, the shidduchim, and many of her friends got married already, and she wrote a letter to the Rebbe. And she basically, like a real full letter, laying everything out, everything that's on her heart, her whole story, and specifically about the concept of shidduchim. And she was holding this letter. She wrote the letter and she was holding it, and she was walking on the way to Maskiris to give in her letter. Happened to be that punct while she was holding the letter, the Rebbe was in the car, and Rabbi Yamin Klein was driving the Rebbe. I think it was in the corner where the museum is.
The Bredel.
Exactly. And the Rebbe, the car stopped, and the Rebbe was, very often the Rebbe would be with the sefer or something, but the Rebbe was looking at her. So at that time, your mother was a ben bias by the Kleins, by Rabbi Binyamin and Leah Klein and her mishpacha. So Rabbi Klein asked her afterwards what was going on. The Rebbe was looking at you. Something's up. What was that? So she said, actually, I was holding a letter in my hand. My whole life was on this letter. I mean, and I was about to deliver it to Maskiris. That's what was happening. Anyhow, the Rebbe responded to her letter, and the Rebbe told her to learn Shara Bitachon. And I believe the Rebbe said to learn it 2 or 3 times. And the Rebbe said, and you can find it in English.
Yeah.
And in general, I've been learning it, based on the Rebbe's Hira to many to learn Shara Bitachon. I've been learning it. I'm always learning it. I learned it once, and I do it sometimes with shiur, but I'm not always learning it, and I'm always getting back to it and continuing. So I actually recently I had that click because I heard a vart in a shiur that I was listening to on it. That all of a sudden I've heard this before because I read it before, but then, this time like it clicked and like it did a lot. So that's the idea. You do it 2 or 3 times.
The only part of the story I heard differently, which I'll have to ask my mom for.
Yeah, and I made a disclaimer. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but go ahead.
She had written in, but did not hear back from the Rebbe, and then she was standing at the corner, and the Rebbe,
She wasn't holding the letter.
That she had written a few days earlier and did not hear back.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a redo to get the story right. So it's just
listen. It takes a lifetime. It's not an all or nothing proposition. To really start moving that, to live a life of bitachon takes time, takes effort, takes work, takes being uncomfortable and to jump out on that ledge to be able to do something out of bitachon.
Why do you think this is such a yesod by the Rebbe, this concept of bitachon? By the way, it's a very fascinating thing. Just Shana Bitachon. It's not a Chassidus sefer.
Right. It's one of the only strong that Rebbe really pushed not being Teis Chassidus.
Yeah. So why do you think this is such a yesod?
It's a worldview. It's a whole different. It's a different way of living your life. It's a whole different attitude. and it permeates every single thing. There's no part of your life that is not affected by really living bitachon, from your schedule of your day to your finances, to having children, to the way you run your company, to the way you interact with other people. Every single part of your day is, so you're not looking for something. If a shliach that lives in bitachon, when you see a guy who's living in bitachon, he's a lot more comfortable with himself, and he's a lot more comfortable with his balabatim, and he's a lot more comfortable in his way he interacts with other people. Because I'm not in charge of the outcome. I'm not in charge of what happens from this interaction. They were just talking running the world. And I remember a while ago, I think it was before COVID, I started calling on, I needed money. It sounds familiar. Like I needed, it was financially tight. But I started calling on local business people to meet with them with no agenda. And just calling on them as the local shliach, as the local rabbi, as the local, in my mind, the way I was in my own mind trying to present it, as a local representative, boyikayach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and really engaging and having a relationship with them, with taken no motive outside of Avos Yisrael, taken no motive, and it was hard. It's obviously I'm looking a very filtered out demographic of who I'm calling on, but then to rewind and say, no, I'm really, there's no agenda here. There's pasha to offer them the service of a rabbi, to have a connection to a shliach, to have a connection to chassidus. But that really is possible. It's a lot easier when I'm not in charge of the world. I'm not in charge of the outcome. I'm not in charge of how this is going to play itself out. How to play it, and sure enough, some of those relationships developed into beautiful relationships, and some of them were dead ends, whatever. But even from a very basic perspective like that, how I interact with people is affected on my bitachon level. Of course, the fundraising, of course, the scheduling, of course, programming is all affected by that. But that foundational attitude is like, Hashem's in charge. He really is. And the money I have in my bank account this morning, how many people come to my program is mamish from the Eibishter, which sometimes, I blame myself more. Either I blame myself when less people come, or I take credit when more people come. Both of them are wrong. The only thing I control is, did I make the phone calls? Did I do my best in my industry for the effort that I'm supposed to put in? Right. I think that's where the Rebbe puts the line. Are you doing the best you can in the industry of what you are performing, what the normative process is? Are you doing that the best you can, and then stop trying to manage the world?
I would also take it a step further. It's not only that you don't have, not trying to control the result. You can't be nispal from the result as well. Yeah. It's like, oh, someone gave a huge donation, let's go dance hakafas. Or being dejected because someone told you no. Whatever, we're talking about finances, but it's negate to so many other aspects of life. Part of that is not being, it's not just, step number one is not looking for the outcome, just doing what you need to do. Step two is not letting the ups and downs control your minds and your emotion.
I wonder that hypothetically, a person with complete, and there was a moment that I thought that complete bitachon might look on the outside like apathy.
Right.
Because both of them, you don't go high, you don't go low. The din mechitza there. But I realized that's not true. Complete bitachon is a person's actually always besimcha. Hypothetically, you might look a little crazy, but you're always on a high.
1 second. There's a video that the Rebbe tells, who was it? He said he's giving 500,000 to Lubavitch. You know what I'm talking about?
Federation?
I forgot who it was, and the Rebbe says,
that's it?
The Rebbe said, yeah, $1 million, maybe $1 million, the Rebbe says. And the Rebbe said $1 million would be a lot better.
Hashan from Toronto.
I don't think it was him, but
by the
Rebbe said $1 million would be a lot better. And the idea is, if you, like, let's say, obviously, Rebbe Chassid, it's different, but if someone is so excited about the $500,000, you can't do that gimmick and say, give $1 million. That's not going to work. But if you think that the person will benefit and have a bigger mitzvah by giving $1 million, so you're going to let him know.
Right, and the fear that he might be turned off, whatever. That's not part of my calculation.
Right. So, and it's also, I mean, we're talking about finances, but it's interesting. Shai Bitachon talks, some shliach told me that he was learning Shai Bitachon with one of his constituents, and the guy said, "Oh, this is all about money. I don't have that problem."
Right.
Baruch Hashem. But Halavai Fal Yidin gesagt.
Most Bitachon challenge, I don't know most, I know for myself, a lot of Bitachon relates to finances.
For your and that's also across the board, because
day-to-day person, unless they're tremendously, tremendously wealthy people. I have a friend who's tremendously wealthy, and he worries. He checks his balance, his net worth every day.
Right.
That's complete opposite. That's like he's a traditional guy, not whatever Shemer Shabbos, but he checks his net worth every day. I can imagine Bill Gates, Elon Musk every morning. Am I the top or am I the top 3 of today? That same fear is the person with. I mean, it expressed itself different, but it's the same lack of bitachon than the guy who's has $8 or negative $1,000. And when you're under duress, it's tremendously difficult, but it's the same lack of bitachon.
And the Rebbe also a lot of there's other things that are connected to bitachon very much that are not related. I mean, actually is related to finance. I was thinking about. You mentioned in a different conversation that Rebbe Sichas about family planning. So some of it is about, the hardship, the emotional hardship, especially on the mother. But a lot of the Sichas are addressing the financial. I mean, you speak to people that don't have this outlook, and it's a very simple cheshbon. Can I afford to have another kid? Right. And we never. Someone that's a mechunich, a frum yid b'chlal, but achas kama a chassid of the Dor Hashvii of the Rebbe befrat. That's not a calculation. That's not one of the calculations at all, because
the Rebbe spells it out. The Rebbe gets very specific. It's every child not only opens up a new spiritual reservoir.
I mean, the Gemara says it. It comes from the Gemara.
Yeah. Okay, that's above my pay grade. Go ahead.
Right. So. It's just these muscles are. I heard a story.
It doesn't make sense. A person with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kids.
Right. I heard a story. I think pretty sure Rabbi Pesach Shmerling is the one that posted this story.
Go ahead.
But I might be wrong. He'll correct me. That Rabbi Binyamin Klein, we mentioned him earlier, came to the Rebbe with a sack of letters, people writing to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said that if people would learn Shara Bitachon, this sack would be half empty. And the idea is everyone has problems. Everyone has challenges. What does a Yid do? As soon as he has a problem, he writes to the Rebbe about it. But if you're in tuned and you believe in the Eibishter and you have the proper bitachon, you don't have that problem. Yes, you have the technique.
There's no problem to begin with.
Right. The hashlachas, you have the practical implications of this. You have like anyone else, but you're able. You write what's really bothering you. But if it's not really bothering you, because you believe in the Eibishter,
does a person with complete bitachon never write?
First of all,
Siris Tevis, he writes.
You could write to the Rebbe Siris Tevis. I mean, in general, the whole concept that, some people are saying, okay, I'm going to the oil, have me mind for a bracha. Right? That's like people use that
status.
Whatever, yeah. I mean, it's true that Rebbe gives brachas, and every chassid writes to the Rebbe when he needs something, a bracha. But that's not why we go to the oil. We don't go to the oil to ask for brachas. There's a language used in other kreisen. You go to a tzaddik, poilin alles gits, to accomplish something. Who said you're going to accomplish something? A chassid has to go to the Rebbe because that's a chassid is connected to the Rebbe. Yeah, obviously, if I need a bracha, I'm going to down to the Eibishter and I'm going to ask the Rebbe for a bracha, but that's not why we go. So, the Rebbe spoke clearly about this whole concept of the tzaras chsidim, right? That this chsidim, that the only time you hear from them is when they need something, and you never hear from them any other time, especially Absurda Teva. Right? There's that famous video where above other Tafshin and Beis, when the Rebbe, someone tells the Rebbe that this is a child
Not
that was born
everyone
from
does it.
child born from a bracha. The Rebbe says, "Thank you for telling me. Not everyone is doing so." The Rebbe says, this is such an important concept, but it's really dependent on the person, and the same thing is like the Eibishter is a rachum v'chanun. The Shemini Esrei, we're asking for all the bakashas tzracha. We're asking for everything you need. But there's also the Psukkah de Zimra. There's also the Birchas Krishma. That's part of the package. That you need to have that too. It's not just asking what you need. This is the famous Ma'aser of the Alter Rebbe, that a chassid came to the Alter Rebbe, says the story. A chassid came to the Alter Rebbe, and he said he needs this, he needs that, he needs that. And the Alter Rebbe said, "Das is alles, was du darfst." If I think I'm saying it correctly. This is everything that you need. Aber was man darf von dir, der meinst du bechlal nicht. What's needed from you, you don't mention at all. So it's like
Here's a mind also that Rebbe wrote. Someone wrote a letter to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe in the tzettel, I don't know if it was English or Hebrew, but there was a bunch of eyes. I think that Rebbe just circled all the eyes. I was like or if whatever it was. Rebbe just circled and like returned to sender. It was like a little sharp, but
today there is a lot of focus on the eye.
Yeah,
like in the culture that's a big focus. Is that a stira to this?
I don't know. There's the mental health world,
right?
Is it a stira? I don't know. The reality is that the focus is there. You can't undo you can't put the salt back into the shaker.
See, people are self-absorbed. You're saying
the culture is such. Maybe that's actually Dor Hashvii. That the Rebbe's, the bittul should affect even the self-obsession should even reach there. Somehow that also becomes bituldik. The focus on self also becomes in a way that I'm humble about it. You can't undo the culture of self-obsession. Everyone's on their phone. The Instagramification of the world, of everyone. Everyone's on a podcast speaking. You can't undo the culture. The question is, how do you take a culture where there is an obsession with self and somehow turn it around to make it into an edela reality?
I think maybe that's the whole concept, that where the Rebbe empowers the individual, that every individual has the chelis. I heard a word from the whole Arichas. Rabbi Sheis Taub said that he has a column. I don't know if he still does. He has a column in the Ami magazine. He's answering people's questions. So someone told him that this is like you really. Oh, he said it's very hard for him to do it. Takes a lot. So someone told him, can you imagine the Rebbe all these letters, and you had to take out, how much it takes from the Rebbe. Now you see what it's like. So I think he said that's not the Vart. That's not so exciting. That's obvious. What's exciting is that the Rebbe really knew the inner workings of everybody, right? People wrote to the Rebbe often. These days, letters are coming out. We always had the Rebbe's answers. Now it's becoming in style. People are sending the letters they wrote to the Rebbe. Where some people uncover some files and they send it all over. You've seen the way people wrote to the Rebbe. People wrote to the Rebbe everything that's going on. So Rabbi Taub says, the Rebbe, not only he answered, but he knew everybody so well.
Yeah.
And yet, and he thought he could build an army with these people.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It's taking the self absorption and utilizing the chelis. I mean, no one. I mean, only in Dor Hashvii. I mean, there was never such a concept till Dor Hashvii that every chassid is empowered to change the world. That never existed. It was for mashpiyim. It was for for rabbanim. I mean, it started in phases. I mean, maybe Tim Mimim, in Lubavitch, that the Neiras L'Hayir, but then the Rebbe said the famous Sikha that this generation, Neiras L'Hayir, it changed. The Rebbe said, Chav Cheshvan, the Rebbe says that in the previous generations, Neiras L'Hayir was if you're Talmud and Tim Mimim. The Chiddush of this generation is that Neiras L'Hayir, every single person is a lamplighter, and Neiras L'Hayir, no matter if you learn the Tim Mimim or not, that it goes over to the whole generation.
I think that, imposter syndrome is a real thing, in the sense that I know for myself and friends that I talk with, and talk with younger shluchim as well. Who am I to actually make a difference in a very real way? Especially when you see
you talk to younger shluchim in what capacity?
As it happens, sometimes calling for advice, sometimes whatever, financial advice or just senior peer advice. Mm-hmm. And let's say in financial advice, people call and advice on how to structure finances or how to build a mice like that, responsible finances. So I found that a lot of people don't feel worthy of, whether it's the salary that they're taking or they don't believe enough in the cause that they're representing. Whatever, I'm a yokel in my little town. What am I doing over here? I haven't done much yet. I'm on Shechos 2-3 years. I haven't accomplished much. I'm costing X amount. I'm not worth the money that I'm taking. I don't see myself on the same level of the stars in Lubavitch, the those that have, at least in a revealed way, high level influence of the world around them. We compare ourselves to them, and it's like, I'm not accomplishing much. I'm not worth that much. And then you start the conversation about, no, you are genuinely the boy kayach of Atzmos Mahos in your little town. You're worth an infinite amount of money. Not the money is the barometer of what you're worth. You are worth the Jewish world has to invest everything it can in you, because you really are a huge deal. You really are. I'm not a yokel in a little town with 8 people at my minyan or 9 people at my seder. It's a very lonely and discouraging job at times when you don't believe in your true power and potential. And I think there's that, people trying to figure out, really your whole life, you're trying to figure out your own ego, your place in the world. And I forget where we got here.
I think you're talking about the power of the individual.
The power of the individual. Did Abba believe in every single person? Did Abba believe in the person themselves, that you are the most important guy in your town? The shliach has to really believe that. The shliach really has to internalize that idea. I remember years ago, I had a deher. I think you have to make a jingle, and every time someone on the podcast says deher, you play like a little deher jingle. Yeah.
We'll ask the producers to add that.
There you go. I had a deher that there's a vart. I don't think it's the Rebbe's vart, but there's a vart of why is Eretz Yisrael where it is geographically. It's at the intersection of Asia, Africa, and Europe. Of all the places on why is that Makim HaKadosh? Why is that Eretz HaKadosh? Why is that there? And because that's really the intersection of the world, that Lahavdil, the Times Square of reality, and anyone doing business between Africa, Asia, Europe has to go through that part of the world. And therefore, if the Yidden's job is to influence the world, if we're the Avram Avinu of humanity that really have to influence everyone, the best way strategically to be able to do that is right there at that intersection. And therefore, Eretz Yisrael is purposefully there, even though it's not a great, there's no oil there and there's no chves, but that's the place, because to make a deal with Bitachon, that's the place it has to happen. I think part of that part is like the whole hashpah of the whole world happens through the Yidden. So all people have to come in contact with Yidden in order to get their hashpah. So that is the greatest place in order to accomplish that. So I thought that the shliach is the same thing in his locale. The shliach is the same, represents Eretz Yisrael, Machta Eretz Yisrael, in his little corner of the world. Really, the entirety, the hashpah of the whole community happens through the shliach's office, living room, Chabad house, meetings, the Starbucks that the shliach goes to. That's where all the hashpahs of the town happens, and the shliach has to really embrace that. Meaning, everyone in the town, who am I? No, every influencer in town has to have a yachas with the shliach. Every school superintendent, anyone in town that is a mitzias davar or not a mitzias davar, their hashpah comes through the local shliach, and therefore it's the shliach's responsibility to step into his position of influence of what am I doing here, and the opposite. Embrace your ego, embrace the power that you have, which is the Rebbe's uftu of celebrating that mitzias, of celebrating that the tachten shein tachten lamata, the ego, and saying run with it. You are the most important person in your town. Now, if you do that in a selfish way, you're going to screw the whole thing up. If you do that in a selfish way, you're going to have a negative impact on the community. But if you do that in a proper way, in an edel way, then your ego is the most important ego of the town.
I think that's the concept that's brought down in Hayom Yom, which is not about a shliach in particular. It's about a chassid in general. That a chassid machta sviva. That you create your environment. You create an environment.
Yeah.
I think it's the same concept. That what is the definition of a chassid? A chassid is somebody that, you use the word influencer. That people use that word today. It's actually a good word. Every chassid is an influencer, or is supposed to be, right? It says if you're not, it's after tzibrechen, right? If you're not an influencer,
if you don't daven ba'aveda, the worst thing is that you're not an influencer. That's Hayom Yom.
Yeah.
Yeah. The worst thing is that you're no longer an influencer.
There's a famous
a real influencer, not a BS chitzenistic influencer.
Right. There's a famous sikha that the Rebbe says that, I don't know if it's how famous it is, that the Rebbe says that if you're davening on Shabbos and you have your talos over your head, even if you're sleeping, but it looks like you're davening b'aved, there's already an Indian. So
I never understood that.
No, what do you?
Go ahead, explain it.
I think that the concept is we're not looking to be fake, not the idea, but you're a healthy chassid. Basically, a lot of people think that they're in their own corner. I mean, if a shliach has that's tamashtus, and that needs to be taken care of. But sometimes people have legitimate reasons for saying this. Let's say I'm not a shliach, or I'm one of the shluchim in the town. I'm not so important. And I think that vart about the talis, but in general, what we're talking about is that you can never look at yourself as you're not part. Like you're just part of the collective crowd. There's the fame in the sichos. Very often when the Rebbe speaks, the Rebbe says, "Jeder einer von euch und euch alle zusammen." It's a lashon that the Rebbe uses. Every one of you in particular, and all of you together. So you need you need both of those, because we have how we're part of a klal, and also the prat. So it's just an important part of the fabric of being a chassid in general, and a chassid Dor Hashvii in particular, is recognizing that you are a person of influence. I mean, everything that the Rebbe writes in so many letters, not to move from your location. Obviously, the Rebbe did let people move. There's I'm generalizing, but you see a kav. The Rebbe doesn't like when people are abandoning their community. Why? Who am I? I'm about for your shliach and your rav for sure. The Rebbe never lets people leave, but I mean, like I said, I made a disclaimer. There were cases that the Rebbe did let, but okay, generally, but any person that you're a yid, you have hashpah on your community. It's a real revolutionary concept. I meet people that, okay, we're making aliyah, we're going here. I mean, not outside of Lubavitch, I'm talking about. We're doing this, we're doing that. And like, I'm not going to get into too many details because but I don't want to talk about individuals, but I saw instances where I saw how those people were very effective in the community. They weren't necessarily rabbanim, or they had this project and they did that project. And one of them was actually making aliyah, not all about. I asked them, "Did you find a replacement?" I asked this person, "Did you find a replacement for this program that you used to do? That you do?" They never even thought of it. Right. It's not because they don't care. It's because it was a thing that they did.
And now they moved on. They're on to the next chapter of their life.
It's not their responsibility.
We have a couple in the community so far, Baruch Hashem. I convinced they really want to make aliyah. Hey, I'm here, Michelle. Thank you. And they really, really want to make aliyah. And Baruch Hashem, they're there quite often. But conversations with them about the Rebbe wants you to stay here. If you're influential here, and they're very influential here in the community, you don't have the privilege of leaving. You are influencers, and embracing the influencer position is and you can talk about it. You actually don't no, you are influential, and you don't have the privilege or the right to pick yourself up and make aliyah, which talk would be very nice for you. It would be very nice. Maybe even add in Yiras Shamayim, which is debatable if it will or won't, but it might even have, be a plus in your own Yiddishkeit, but you have the Echrais here.
Right. And sometimes, right. And sometimes, the whole concept of shlichus, when the Rebbe was introducing it, it's clear in the Sichos. Look at the Sichos, Chelek Aleph. The way the Rebbe is very interesting in general. If you learn the early Sichos, you can see how the Rebbe is developing the concept of shlichus. Not necessarily is it always about shlichus. It's the whole concept of hafatza, the idea that the Rebbe has to be mechanech from Aleph Beis. And one of the things that the Rebbe says there,
training a generation to think in those minds.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that the Rebbe says is, yes, it may affect your spiritual and your ruchnistic growth, but it's what's needed from you, and other people can benefit from it. So it's your responsibility.
Right.
So, we were discussing this in a different conversation, that I think the Rebbe's approach in general is empowering through giving responsibility.
The more you did, the more you got empowered to do more.
Right. And it's like, some people have a hard time with it. Like, what do you want from me? I do what I can. Obviously, you do what you can. But I think it's such a different approach to life, that that approach that you're doing it for yourself. It's part of your shleimus. Everything, right? Yesh misha'ayev. Yeah, there's selfish motives, but it's for yourself. You want to look at yourself as someone that has responsibility and someone that has influence, because ultimately you're going to be in a healthier spot. Your family's going to be in a healthier spot. If you feel like you're doing something, someone sent me this little a meme. There's a new breakthrough, new approach to self-care. And the new approach is that there's been studies that if you help others, it actually helps you be happier. This is a huge breakthrough in modern psychology.
Billions of dollars of research.
Right. And this is basic Rebbe. This is so basic, but people take it for granted, like, or they're not realizing or not tapping into that. Like, you're a massive influencer, and a lot of times also people look in, oh, this is wrong. This is, they're looking at society, or they're looking at in Lubavitch, like, this is not going right and that's not going right, and then they complain about it on their WhatsApp group or to their best friend.
By the way, from the Rebbe's perspective, every part of Elam Haza has to become Al Pi Torah. Every single part of the human experience, your seichel, your midas, your maisa, all eser sfiras of your makeup, and the entirety of civilization. Part of bringing Mashiach is the entirety of civilization is that it's functioning Al Pi Torah. Whether it's Shleimus Audits happens Al Pi Torah, that would shurim that the only way real shalom can happen is when it's Al Pi Torah. If it's make believe ideas, then it's just temporary measures that won't really bring shalom amiti. It can only happen Al Pi Torah. Commerce can only happen Al Pi Torah. Business, real money can only be made Al Pi Shulchan Aruch. Society should only ultimately be running Al Pi Torah. So each one of us have huge influence on a segment of the world that is still not running Al Pi Torah. And whether it's a shliach, everyone in this context, every single person is a shliach, which is how the Rebbe presented it. That we all have a part of Elam Haza that is not.
It says in Ayem Yem, Chassidim seinen Shluchim von Rebbe. A chassid is a shliach of the Rebbe. Yeah. Yeah.
To create a reality where everything in this world is functioning Al Pi Torah. So, there's never a moment where you're outside of a shlichus. If there's a room full of goyim and you're in the room, great. Well, I think it was Drizzen in California when that the cult they killed themselves. Is that you know what I'm talking about?
No, I mean I heard of the cult that killed themselves, but you can elaborate.
I think the 70s, I don't know, late 60s, early 70s. Rabbi Drizzen was a shliach in San Francisco in Northern California, something.
He was in Berkeley, I believe. No, or that was Schwartz. He was maybe both of them. Okay.
And there was the cult. Either they were there, or they were sourced from there, or I don't know, from there, and they all committed mass suicide. And soon thereafter, Chalakov called him and says, "Hayatachin." He's like, "Hayatachin, like ma, like what? How do I get mixed into this?" Although probably there were many of them were Jewish, but they live there. It's an hour from here, whatever it is. It's far away. And
the Chalakov says you have to assume responsibility.
It's your thing. It's your thing. It's your part of the world. You are in a position of influence. It's under your umbrella, whatever that means. But just the Shavim B'nai Nayach, like all these things that the Rebbe pushed, which is a novelty of Dor Hashvii, that all these things should happen, is really understanding that every person can influence every part of reality, that it should be Al Pi Torah. Not just Al Pi Torah, Al Pi Chassidus, Al Pi, deeper things.
And this would also explain why Dor Hashvii is tasked with bringing Mashiach.
That's a natural conclusion of this process,
right? Because
when you're doing this, and when every single detail of reality is infused with the Mayan itself, then automatically Mashiach happens. It's like that's a natural outcome,
right? So the Rebbe basically on Bas Lagani was setting out the mission and telling every chassid that chassidus will no longer be, for chassidim, Balabavich is not a party, it's not a maflega, and each one of you have to bring Mashiach, and you're all going to take responsibility for this.
It's a crazy idea, by the way, if you look at it from a very grub, analytical sense. The Rebbe's business strategy, systematically laid out from Tafshin Yud, even before Tafshin Yud. What's the goal? The mission statement. Like the Rebbe is very vocal. There's a mission statement.
The Rebbe said in America we like a statement.
Right, mock statement. Yeah. The Rebbe lays that as a mission statement. The Rebbe slowly starts building infrastructure. The Rebbe slowly starts. The Rebbe, waits for certain things to come from Chassidim, whatever it is. Certain initiatives come from Chassidim. The Rebbe, progressively goes and slowly goes and builds up this flywheel effect that just bigger, and all of a sudden everything gets sucked into it, and you have Lubavitch what it is today. But it's a fascinating. I don't know if there's an article's written about the Rebbe's business strategy, but the Rebbe's.
Weren't you working on such a project?
No, something similar. I don't know. You have a couple $1,000 for me?
What is the project?
Really? We're gonna go there? Okay. I had seen an article, I want to say 10 years ago, of someone built the data of Shalos and Shuvas. I don't even know when the Shalos and Shuvas are. I don't know, 300, 400, 500 years ago, of each the Shalos and Shuvas of the reach of the Shalos and Shuvas. Meaning, okay, I'm drawing a blank. Who's a Shalos and give me an example of the Noda B'Yehuda. Is he a Shalos and Shuvas?
Yep.
I guessed right. Okay, the Noda B'Yehuda is sitting in a shtetl in
Prague.
The planet, on the planet.
Prague.
Thank you. Right, near the Golem. And he's sitting there, and he's
it's if you listen to Shmuel Kunda, you would know that Lady Behuda is from Prague.
There you go. I think that video is blocked on that video. I can't watch.
It's pre-to video. I mean, this is cassette, and then the car we listen to it. Okay.
So
maybe in the Teldons they don't have Shmuel Kunda.
We don't have cassettes.
Oh, okay.
So Noda B'Yehuda is sitting in his basement or his living room, wherever he is. Is that the same guy that the longest Pesach? Same guy?
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah.
Okay, so I already can hear the sounds of his living room. So he's sitting in his living room. The guy knocks. Now he's sitting in his living room and he sends out 500,000 different letters, Shalos and Shuvas. So they actually, in a very cool way, built out a database of all the places and dates that he sent out letters. So you can see, I don't know what year he lived in, this year he sent letters there, and then that year, you can see over the course of the 30, 40, 50 years that he's sending out letters, the reach of the Noda B'Yehuda. And you can do that with many different authors over the course of their lifetime, the influence. It's actually done, I think, at the University of Haifa. So they would digitized Shalos and Shuvas. I thought it was cool. I thought, why don't we do that with the Rebbe? Whatever, it never happened.
Do what?
So a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it dawned on me that maybe Taka can. I don't know the technology, but I started dabbling in it. So imagine you can do the reach al pi das tachton. We don't know the reach. It's impossible to quantify it. But imagine al pi das tachton, if you can digitize the Rebbe's reach, meaning from Samach Beis, you have a small dot in the Dnepropetrovsk, Nikolaev,
the Rebbe was born.
Nikolaev, and then over the course of time, so you have different metrics, you have different data points of what of where the Rebbe is reached. So you have Moses open, you have Shluchim sent, you have letters sent. So you have the date and the location. You have places referenced in Sichos. You have Tanya's printed. You have Merkei Shluchim sent. You have things like that. You have places that Rebbe went. So imagine you can actually have on a map these type of visuals of the reach of the Lubavitch Rebbe. Now, you can do it in a way, you can pull up the data multiple ways. Tafshin Chaf. What was done in Lubavitch in Tafshin Chaf? People that came from Yechidus, where do they come from? It's in communications, Hebrew and English. There's 10,000 Hebrew letters, and there's at least another 10,000 English of other languages letters from the Rebbe. There's 20, 30, 40,000 minus whatever it is. There's a tremendous volume of data that is available to be able to really quantify or visualize. I have the thing that Rebbe's gift to the world in all the cities that currently have Lubavitch, but that's not a strong visual, and it's also not interactive, and it's not over time. So imagine you can do Tafshin Chaf. What happened in Tafshin Chaf? These are the Shluchim sent, the Moses opened, the Merkei Shluchim sent during those years, the minus sent, the letters, etc. Imagine you could do from Taf Reish Samach Beis till Tafshin Chaf. Where was Lubavitch at that point? I believe if you have all that data, you can create an interactive map of really covering the planet. I mean, where on this planet was there not a letter sent or a shliach didn't walk through? And Merkei Shluchim, etc. So
it's funny. I just recently saw a letter from the Rebbe in English to someone in Stanford.
20 years before Shluchim.
He lives mamish around the corner from where I live, and no one knows. I asked a bunch of people, the Rabbi Darren and others, They don't know who he is. It was before, and we don't know it. But the Rebbe was communicating with the Yid that lives around the block from me.
I moved into Smithtown.
Your father has hanging in his office a letter that the Rebbe wrote to what was that group in Long Island? There was a group that was becoming frum, and that was the precursor for your parents becoming shluchim in Long Island. Oh, your father has the letter that I wrote to them. It's hanging in your father's office.
I moved to Smithtown 4 years ago to a new house. We moved there Pesach 6 months later. You know your neighbors. You wave at them. You smile at them. You don't really know who you are. I knew there was a couple doors down. There's a Jewish guy, and I'm walking to Rosh Hashanah morning. I walk by this guy's house. He's out in his car. He's washing his car. Rosh Hashanah morning, music blasting, young kid. I walk by. He waves at me. Happy Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi. So I say, hey, you want to hear shofar? I walk over. He comes out, put a yarmulke on and blow shofar. And he says to me, oh, I was by the oil yesterday. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, whenever I have a problem, I go to the oil. Did I say it right? Oil? So he says, but it was too busy. There were too many people. It was at Rosh Hashanah. There were too many people. So I left. I'm going to go back next week. I was going to ask him, like, how do you end up there? And that's like the stupidest question ever. Like, what do you mean, how do you end up there? Of course he ended up there. But the Rebbe didn't need me. Like, the Rebbe has his, maybe I'll have the schus to be able to get involved in this person's relationship. The relationship happened independent without me. But so I actually spent some time researching. So we have, the Moisdus generally have the data available. Some data, the American Shulchan of the early years is not digitized in any real way. It's hard to track, but maybe this can be part of the process of digitizing. Ironically, I reached out to the guy who originally digitized the Shalos and Shuvah thing. And he got all excited. He says University of Haifa would love to get involved, and he quoted me $40,000 to build out this huge map. I said no, thank you. But on Fiverr, I got a guy.
Oh, he wanted $40,000.
He wanted $40,000 to build out this interactive map that really can.
So, what do you think? What is the point of this besides the data?
The point is that Dor Hashvii influencing every corner of the globe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, our Rebbe, really changed. If Mashiach's coming is dependent on us reaching every corner of the globe with the Mayan itself and really getting there, that gives a visualization of how that's happening. Also, let's say Tanya's. You're in a place, no Tanya was printed there. It's very hard today to find out, was a Tanya ever printed here? So boom, you can find it. Where is there a place? It's all great for shlichus development.
So you're saying this is also could be a tool to see where on the map
we have. Once it happens, there's a lot that can be done with it. And the Moses are very supportive of it happening. Also, they just need someone to pull it all together onto one. Maybe that's their hair project next. But whatever. It's using modern technology to really appreciate the enormity. It's hard to fathom the Rebbe's reach on the world. It's hard to put that in a visual of what that actually means. Literally every zip code either has a Tanya printed, has a Shliach, has a Moisid, has a Merker Shliach in certain areas of the globe. It's a pretty cool idea.
Right.
Sponsorship's available.
And the vision is that it goes after Gimel Tammuz also?
Yeah, 100%. Like, imagine you can see from 1902 to 1925 to 2025 as the world just gets covered with these little flames or whatever the icon is. The Rebbe's influence, by the kinnis, it's those shach went out before Gimel Tammuz, those shach went out after Gimel Tammuz. You don't really see, everyone's halfway standing anyways. When you see Yatim B'Chayei, you actually see Yatim B'Chayei. Like you can actually see, wow, like this is a crazy visual.
And it's also because in the Yatim B'Chayei reality is how we're going to fulfill the mission. It didn't happen before, and it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
And by the way, l'cheira, what could tie everything in, believing in this mission and really having emunah and Mashiach, to also tie into Bitachon. If you think that you're here mikra nikris and you're here by chance and you just happen to be here because you don't really believe in the Eibush there, how can you believe in Mashiach? really believing in Mashiach is a total outgrowth of having strong Yesodis in your Emunah and the Eibishter and in your Bitachon. So that's the mice that I heard it different. I always thought it was the Alter Rebbe, but I just heard now that it might have been someone else, that the Alter Rebbe came back from his rich. You know the story?
Go ahead.
I always heard it was the Alter Rebbe, but I don't know. And then someone asked, what did you learn there? So, there's Eibishter.
Yeah.
He said, well, you don't know there's Eibishter? The Shivcha knows it also. She brought her in. He asked her, what, is there Eibishter? Yeah. So he said that she says there's an Eibishter. I know that there's an Eibishter. And I think that's really the concept. Well, that's the concept of a Rebbe in general. The Amin Vashem of Meisha Avdei, that the Nasim, a Nasi Adair, is mefarnis the Emunah. It sustains our Emunah in the Eibishter. When you have the Rebbe, the Rebbe is laying out, there's an Eibishter in this world, there's Basi Lagani, Legnuni, the Makam Sheikh Batchila, and you have and translating that to the here and now, and now we have to actually make a dir b'tachtenim and bring the Eibishter into this world. I mean, this is a huge, huge gift that we have as Chassidim, and that the whole world has, to be able to have that clarity, and that to know that it's real, to really know that it's real, and to be able to wake up in the morning and say, I'm part of this godly mission. It takes on a whole new dimension when it's coming in this context. It's not Ashreinu Atef Chalkeinu because we're murdered and because of anti-Semitism, and Ashreinu Chalkeinu because we're Am HaNivcher. That's also true.
Yeah. So now that we sat together, Shreina Parminut, we're already friends. So
we're just pretending.
We're just pretending. So I'll share a story, hopefully that ties a few things in together. I'll shtick Bitachon. So many years ago, well, not so many years ago, we were looking for a house for years. Baruch Hashem, we outgrew our recent house, our previous house, and we were looking for a new house. I want to try to remember all the details correctly, but I might clarify it throughout. We're looking for a new house, and we just couldn't find one. Of course, walking distance to Chabad. Didn't work out. Fast forward to it was a Tishrei. So Tishrei, right after Tishrei put out, we expanded on Zillow. We went, you know what? We'll find a mile radius from our house. We'll find a walkable distance 1 mile. Sure enough, within a few days after Yom Tov, we found a house. We put in an offer. We won the bid. Great house, great location. We had to refurbish. We had to fix up our current house before we moved into the new one. So we couldn't sell that house until we bought the new one. So I needed a loan. I called my grandfather, Zaidi Mexico. He gave me a loan so that we can buy the new house. Very good. So we were supposed to close on the house December 30th. We were supposed to close on the house. Our lawyer had all thing lined up. He sends me an email about 10 days beforehand saying, hey, this is the amount we need for closing. Can you please wire me the amount? And I will send you. And that way, when we get to closing, everything will be fine. We don't have to have any problems. I wire him the money. I call, go to the bank. I wire the money. December 25th. Yeah, December 25th was Shabbos. I went to the bank. He calls me. The lawyer calls me December 24th, Friday at 3:30. And he says, okay, the closing is next week. When it's Thursday. I just wanted to give you the numbers of what you should bring to closing in a check. I said, I already wired you the money. And he says, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why do you think you sent me the money? I never asked you for money. And all of a sudden it dawned on me what happened. Like, oh shoot. So I'm like, oh, stop a second. Like, you never asked for money? He says, no, I never asked you for money. I said, here's an email that you sent me. He says, I never sent you that email. Kids, it was a hack. I had wired $136,000 to the proverbial Nigerian prince in someplace, whatever. And that was the loan that I got from my grandfather to go to closing. So it's Friday afternoon, 3:30. Shabbos is 4:07. It's a short Shabbos. Shabbos is 4:07. So I didn't even call home. I ran to the bank. I ran to Chase, where the money was, and they're closed already for the Chagah. I call. It's 3:45. It's 3:50. I call. I don't know who to call. The whole country shut down already, and we have guests coming to our house in a half hour, in 45 minutes. I call the police and I say, I don't know the right person to call. Can I file a report? They said they'll send someone to my house. I said, okay, but it's going to be the Sabbath and I can't do anything. They said, listen, there's no one in the office now. We'll do the best we can. I run home. I walk in the house. My wife sees, she sees something went off. I'm like, it's 4:10. It's like right after Lichman. It's 4:15. I say, give me a second. Let me just empty out my pockets. I'll tell you everything. I run into the bedroom to take out my stuff. As I'm in the bedroom, the doorbell rings. There's a cop at the door. So my kids are there. And no one knows what happened yet. And there's a cop at the door and Tati's freaking out. So I come out my bedroom like, okay, guys, everyone's okay. I said, everyone's fine. Give me 2 minutes. I'll explain everything. I step out of the house. And I tell the cop, listen, this is what happened. He says, when did this when did you wire the money? This morning, this afternoon? I said, no, I wired it like 10 days ago. And he's like, oh, now, it was 5 days. It was 5 days before I spoke to him. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. Like if it was this morning, there's what to do about it. 5 days ago, there's nothing to do about it. Gets there, he takes down a police report. I go back into the house. And my wife and kids are standing there like, what just happened? I said, listen, Tati made a mistake, and I wired the money to some crook. We're going to buy the house. I have no idea how, but we're going to buy the house. And I have no idea. That's all the information I know. I don't know anything else. I wired the money to the wrong person, and the closing is Thursday. I'm going to buy the house. I'm going to have Baruch Hashem. And somehow internally, like it was just, okay, Mendy, the guests are coming, and everything you ever learned in yeshiva about Shabbos and about Bitachon and about the Eibush runs the world and about whatever, the moment Shabbos begins, Malachta Asuya, like everything, the world at Shkia on Friday afternoon is perfect. And somehow something just clicked in my mind. I'm like, okay, let's go with this. Like I have nothing to lose. Like there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. Guests came. It was a delightful Friday night. Then I actually called those guests like a year later and said, "Do you notice anything that Friday night?" Like, no, everything was beautiful.
They didn't notice.
They didn't know nothing. One of the families actually committed to put the kids in day school that night. It was beautiful. The moment in which Shabbos happened, of course, now reality hits, and I was like, whatever. It's Krasmach weekend, and not everything. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. I called every person I knew that I thought could be influential. No one can do anything. And the moment they heard that, it's like, now it's 6-7 days ago. There's nothing to do. Monday morning comes, okay, weiter. So we're able to track it. That was sent from. It takes like 24 hours to get these things done because you have to get a permit from the government, from the police to go to Chase, and I wired it to U.S. Bank. Okay, now you have to talk to U.S. Bank. It takes another 48 hours, and 48 hours later, okay, now they sent it to the next. Finally, the closing is on Thursday. I borrowed money from 4 different people, $100,000 to go to closing. We closed. We're still running after the money. It's nowhere, whatever. Then it's New Year's weekend. Weiter gets pushed off for 3 days. After we found out that it was put into a signature bank account, and the bank account belongs to a cryptocurrency company. Like it's from there, it's a cryptocurrency holding company, and the money gets sent away. The moment it's incurred. So during this process, like it was a genuine, that week, coming back to Bitachon was a very a strong reality check. Like you couldn't pretend anymore. And that's when I asked you before about, I said the difference between Bitachon and apathy.
Right. So what were you saying to yourself that week? That I know this is going to work out. I'm going to get the money back. Or you were saying, relying on the Eibush, and that's it.
I didn't know what to think. It was so overwhelming. There were times that I thought both of those. There were times that I remember distinctly having one thought. When I found out that the money went into a crypto account, which basically means it's over. I mean, once it's in crypto money, it's anonymous, it's gone.
Right.
So I remember thinking to myself that I heard at Rabashka when he was in prison, when he said when the last person he thought could help him said, "I can't help you," I think he, at that moment, either he got very upset or I think he actually got very happy. Like, okay, now only the Eibishter can help. Only the Eibishter. And when it went into crypto, I'm like, okay, God, this is mamish only on you. There's nothing that could be done here. It's not no one gave me even that small chance of getting back the money. And but in the course of that week, I was speaking to anyone that I can, and I realized that I'm in a position of being able to share my bitachon with other people. That I share with people. I have no idea how this is going to work out, but the Eibush runs the world. I wasn't in Yehudi Lam yet. I wasn't like everything's going to be perfect because Eibush runs the world and everything. Like, I don't know. I'm not nervous because Hashem runs the world, and I wasn't nervous. My heartbeat wasn't going up or down. I wasn't besimcha, but I was like, okay, this God's going to run the world, and boom. Mamash 2 weeks later, I got a call from the detective. He said, Rabbi, don't repeat this story to anyone because it will never happen again. We found your money. Like how? He says, Rabbi, don't ask. We have your money. And it took 4 or 6 weeks, and then they wired it back.
Your local police.
Fourth precinct over here, whatever. I don't know who they talk with, and I don't know how it goes. I spoke to the FBI, I spoke to CIA, I spoke to Mamish, anyone that I thought knew anyone about anything. But they were all immediately at the end of the phone call like, Rabbi, there's nothing to do. I've gotten phone calls, people that I've told the story to, I've gotten phone calls from other people saying, Rabbi, I wired money. How do you get the money back? I'm like, there's no method to this. It was fine. But in the course of that time, it was a beautiful experience of actualizing bitachon, of actualizing the tools that I read about, Shar Bitachon, etc., and learned about and verbringed about, but actually, like, okay, I called Eli Rosenfeld in Florida, who helped Shloch, and I said, Eli, I have this thing. I discussed with my wife. We're out $130,000. We're pretty confident that God's going to get it back to us. I have no idea how. So I want to preemptively commit to you $13,000, and I'm going to send you $1,800 now. I actually borrowed $1,800 to be able to send it to him as a prepayment for the $13,000. I just want
you gave it a t'nai that you're getting the money back, or you're saying no, this is a pledge no matter what the outcome is.
The $1,800 I sent, and then I said, Eli, tell the Eibishter that there's more money waiting for you. I don't know where, but there's more money waiting for you. So as soon as I get that money, I'm going to send you the money. Gets it. So Lapel, we sent him, another $12,000, and he said there was a wedding shliach in somewhere in Africa, in Ukraine or Russia, that we were able to pay for that wedding. And at the time I made a list of all the beautiful things that happened because of the theft, the wire theft. And whether it was going to the oil and davening, like really, really davening, whether it was checking all the mezuzahs in the house, whether it was adding shiurim, whatever it was, certain things that it was a beautiful list of things that, okay, so whether or not the money comes back, we already have beautiful things that happen because of it. If the money comes back, gravy, it'll be pretty cool. But the pilot came back. Simcha, Baruch Hashem, we were able to, send back my grandfather the money, pay back the loans, start construction of my house, whatever. Good stuff. Fast forward, there's a follow-up and a follow-up to the follow-up to the story. But fast forward, we're about to move in a few months later till we sold our old house. So fast forward, our new house, we were doing construction. A week before we were supposed to move into the new house, there's a flood and destroys the floor. we put in a brand new floor, all destroyed. Call the insurance company. They say, no, you're not covered. Why? I didn't know this, but when you get insurance on your house, you have 6 weeks to move into your house, or else it becomes a rental, an investment property. If you have 2 different properties and you need a special rider to extend your insurance on your new house, I don't know. It was supposed to take less than 6 weeks, so we're not covered by insurance. And now they say there's no money here. I called one of these people that help with insurance. He said, there's nothing here. I said, do me a favor, try. But there's nothing here. It's over. I'm sorry. There's nothing here. There's no responsibility for them to give you $1. Lapel, I had a conversation with my wife, and we committed. If the money comes in, it's new money. It's gefunden Geld. Give Meiser. Sure enough, 2 months later, we got a random call. They said, okay, we decided to give you $50,000 to cover the damage. Mamish, they didn't owe it to us anything. Beautiful. The next, we're trying to sell our old house. No bites. It's a hot market. Everything's selling. We had to bring them nothing. It's the middle of June, July. I'm paying 2 mortgages, schlepped. And then I thought the reality like this. It dawned on me the year before, 2020. Yeah, 2020 with the PPPs and all that.
Kufasa PPPs.
Yeah. So the PPPs, Baruch Hashem, money came in, right? Money came in. And it was personal money. It wasn't Moised money. It was personal money. And then whatever, I had some other things that I was doing on the side that I was able to bring in money. And when I made a cheshbon in El 2021, I made a cheshbon of the monies that came in. So I gave Meiser during all that. And it was like when at Rosh Hashanah, you make a cheshbon of the money they gave to the state. No, you make a cheshbon of the money you gave to the Moses Chakadmar. So I made a cheshbon of the money. And it was like a pretty cool number. Like, wow, that was pretty cool. I never thought I can give that much amount of tzedakah. Ever. Wow. So I remember at that time, so this is Erev Rosh Hashanah 2021. I remember at that time saying to myself, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if next year, even though there's no PPP and I wasn't doing the same things that I thought I can make some money on the side, if I can give the same amount of Meiser? And I thought to myself, like, that's stupid. That's like a silly thought. Like, it's not possible. It's not like, just the math is not shaykh. For me to make that much money, to be able to give that much Meiser is not in my wheelhouse to make that much money. There's no, PPP was a lot of money and other things a lot of money. Like, it's just not shaykh. Then I thought to myself, like, the Eibush, like, why do I need to manage the Eibishter's money? Like, if he gave me this amount this year, he can give me a different amount next year. So I wrote down on a piece of paper, and then I'm like, you know what? Why am I being stingy with the Eibishter's money? If I'm already asking for that amount, go big or go home. So I wrote the number literally double the amount of what I gave last year.
Simply doubling it.
Last year was a crazy number. I'm like, why not? It's not my money anyways. So I doubled it. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I actually sent it myself as an email that should pop up in my Gmail account at Rosh Hashanah the following year. And then it was such a crazy number, I forgot about it. That's why it didn't dawn on me. I forgot about it. It was like a silly thought. I'm standing now middle of, and I made the cheshbon of the money that I generally gave, plus the money that I gave from the wire, $13,000 there, plus the $5,000 from the insurance. Like, you know what? We committed to give Meiser from the benefit and the profits on the sale of our old house. Like, wow, that's going to get me to that number. Mm-hmm. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm pretty confident we're going to sell the house before Rosh Hashanah. And I did the math. I showed it to her. She's like, Halavai, whatever. That's pretty cool. Sure enough, literally 3 days before Rosh Hashanah, we closed on the house. And we on Rosh Chodesh Elul, we went to contract, and they asked special requests. Usually it's 60 to 90 days. Right. Go to closing. They asked if we're okay doing it in 30 days. Like, yeah, we can do it in 30 days.
I have a deadline to meet.
Right. So we got the money, And I had already planned out, where it's going. So Baruch Hashem, Erev Rosh Hashanah, I took out a paper. It was $300 more than the number that I wrote down in the email the year before. All right. I come, very cool. Like Bitachon, it all worked out.
Yeah.
It all worked out. I got the money back from the wire. I got the insurance. I sold the house.
They lived happily ever after.
Lived happily ever after. All three things that were not b'chlal in my machshava the year before. Now it's Erev Rosh Hashanah. Now I'm a melumid in Nissim, right? I know how this. I know how the game works. So I wrote last year. I doubled. Now I'm a smart boy.
Triple.
I know how this works. So I wrote a number. Fast forward the next year, I didn't even hit the previous number. Right, so a year later, now I'm like going through my own internal sveikus and amunah. And I thought that's how it works. You put a number and you start giving towards it, and then the Eibusher just sends, fills in the blank. So I was in retrospect, it's like silly, but I was like wondering, like, how taka does this work? And what's the algorithm? So I was watching a gem interview with Aram Lund from Florida. He has an interesting maisa, also similar thing. Magazen.
Yeah.
So he came. He was bidding out the Eresas, and he gave, I think, $500, and the Rebbe said sen malazoi, which was a crazy number, $5,000. The Rebbe said of besimcha, like the Rebbe said he should do it happily, and he said yeah. The next, he didn't have the money. The following, so he sold a piece of property, mamish, right before Rosh Hashanah, and he was able to do that plus. And he comes back the next year of Shavuos Bereshis, and he's bidding. I think Zalman Garari, I forget who he's bidding against, and he's bidding because now he's a Yiddish Gvir, and not only that, but the Rebbe takes care of him. Whatever number he says, the Rebbe is going to back him up. So the Rebbe, they arrange that whoever the other person was wins, and he gets second. He gets another covet, but like the Rebbe told him, I'll take care. I'll tell you the number, basically an open check. So he comes in for Yechidus afterwards, and the Rebbe, and he sits there, and he comes in with a whole balabatishkeit. He describes, like, he comes in like the Rebbe's going to tell him a number, and he's going to write the number, and then he knows that's his profit for the year, times 10. And at the end of the Yechidus, like, the Rebbe doesn't bring it up at all. Mm-hmm. And he's disappointed. He's like, where'd I go wrong? And he brings it up, and the Rebbe, I think, says like $118. And he's like heartbroken. He's like devastated. Like is that really that's what it's about? I forget if this is him talking or the Rebbe told him. But he realized, again, I'm not sure if the Rebbe told him this or just him understanding himself, that last year he came, it was Mitzad Bittul. And this year he came with the whole Mitzias. The Rebbe brought him down to size. Not only that, but also, again, I don't know, I'm not sure if this is him talking or me translating in my own mind about him talking, but also, like, the Rebbe, the previous year took him to a place where he didn't see possible. The Rebbe took him to a place where it was not in his bachal, he's not shaykh to that. What do you mean $5,000 stuff? The Rebbe took him to a different place. And now you've got to figure it out on yourself. You can't, I'm not carrying you through this process anymore. Now David is to actually get there on your own. And he doesn't follow up the rest of his life, but what happened. But Baruch Hashem, he was able to give tzedakah, but now he had to come to the conclusion himself, and the automatic math of stick in, the spreadsheet, that number, and times it by 10, and happily ever after. That's what Hashem provided you for the year. Is not the algorithm of how the Eibush works. So it was a reality check for myself of, okay, you did something very nice one year and it worked out one year. And now going forward, you gotta flex those muscles and work on the Bitachon muscle of taking that leap and doing whatever I think is the appropriate thing, but stretching it till it gets to a place where it's beyond my previous machshavas, But it's not an automatic thing. It takes work.
So you're saying that Bitachon is not a ticket for a good life. And I saw that Rebbe writes many times to people that, at least in Galus, life is full of ups and downs and hardships. So it's not a ticket that if you have real Bitachon doesn't mean that everything is always going to be good. But you will see that there will be times, if you have Bitachon, you will see there are times in your life where there is no other way of explaining it besides the Eibishter's hand. And that gives you the ability not only to stretch way beyond any place you can that you've gone before, but it also helps you during those times when you're on those downs to also realize it's the same Eibishter and that you can do it.
Yeah, very good. There's no free ticket. Yeah, and life is easier when it's in a Bitachon mindset. Life is easier not because the things that happen to you. It's not like those things don't happen to you anymore. Whatever those things that we stress about still happen, and life, the waves are constantly coming at you. Maybe life doesn't even change that much. It does. Life does change. Life does change.
But even if it doesn't, you changed.
Yeah. And life becomes just easier, not as in there's not sadness. Easier as in you have when you're on the Abish's shoulders. It's easier.
I saw a letter that the Rebbe wrote to Mr. Mel Landau.
Yeah.
From Florida in the Landau Yeshiva. So the Rebbe writes to him a letter that I get regards from you from Rabbi Shalom Bar Lipsker, and I also read the newspaper clippings regarding yourself and your business. Apparently, there was some downturn in his business. Yeah. You familiar with this letter?
No, but I heard that during that downturn, what he would do is I think he was mamish, like, I don't know, homeless, but like mamish didn't have money. He would sit in front of Landau Yeshiva and just watch the kids playing in the yard. Like that was that can never be taken away from him. Still cute.
Interesting.
He would sit there and he had no business, he had nothing, but he would sit there and just the Landau Yeshiva was his, and that's his nachas.
The Rebbe writes to him that a true leader in a business is not somebody that's an effective leader when everything is going well. A true leader in a business is somebody that even when things are not doing well, uses that out when there's as an opportunity to, first of all, recalculate and do things better, but also to be like an athlete that ever writes that takes steps back in order to jump over an even higher hurdle. So having Bitachon, the real Bitachon, is like when things are going well, it's very easy to have Bitachon, or you cannot have Bitachon because you don't need it. You really get Bitachon muscles when you need it, when the Eibusher presents you with a challenge. So, first of all, there's the revolution of the concept of Trachut v'Zayngut. That just thinking positively about it and believing the Eibusher that it will be good can actually transform the reality. But there's also the concept that being in that mindset will, if the Eibusher decided this is what's going to happen to you, that means it's an opportunity. That's a real thing. And the Eibusher is giving you this challenge because you can handle it. I mean, these are all things that say in Svarim, but they're actually real. And it's up to every single person to learn the Rebbe Sichos and learn Shar Bitachon and learn Torah. Right? I just saw someone wrote to the Rebbe about depression. The Rebbe said, you have to learn Torah, right? Because Hashem Yisharim Samchei Lev. The Torah makes you happy. You've learned Torah, so you have to plug into all of those things, and then one or two things can happen. It could be Trachut v'Zayngut, or it could be that you'll have less of a problem. Even if reality doesn't change. I don't know, it's an interesting. I can't figure out yet. Someone can explain to me are you okay with the reality or tachkut v'zayngut? And when is that bestirred to each other? I recently missed a flight for the first time since I'm 17 years. I've only missed a flight twice in my life, and I just missed a flight for the first time since I'm 17 years old. I set the alarm in the wrong hour, and I'm running through the airport trying to make it. And as I'm running, I'm running through JFK. As I'm running, I made a mental note to myself: I don't need to go. I don't need to go. It was the truth. Whatever I was going, I don't need to go. Whatever I was meeting someone. Fine, I don't need to go. I want to go. I kept on running. I was trying to make the flight, but I made a mental note that I don't need to go. I got there. I missed my flight by 10 minutes, and she's like, "When do you need to be there?" I need to be there by 10 a.m.
Right.
No problem. There's a flight leaving in 20 minutes. She put me on the flight. Like 20, I ran to the other gate and I boarded my flight. So I was thinking afterwards. I mean, first of all, that was an amazing, but so was it like is that apathy that I don't need to go, or it's I think that's the right balance. Like do your stadlus, run to the gate, but also don't be committed to that result, because A, that result may not happen. B, it might happen a different way. And it's all about shkacha pratis.
Yeah.
My return flight was a one-day flight. My return flight was also delayed 45 minutes. So mamash worked out perfectly.
Find that let's state emuna. The word emuna comes from the word, same etymology as practice.
Mm-hmm.
Or work. You gotta. It's something. When it's not under pressure, that's the practice, and then when the pressure happens, that's when when you have to implement everything that you're talking about. And then you run on a treadmill. Amol. I once ran on a treadmill. Amol. It happened.
It happened once.
It once happened. Amol. It was actually, whatever. I won't go into the gory details, but I once was on a treadmill, and it happened twice, a second, a third time, and then the guy that I was doing it with, he was on a different treadmill, but the guy that I was doing it with says, now, okay, you have to go in the street. You have to run in the street.
Mm-hmm.
Treadmill is cute, but to really run, you have to run in the street. So whatever, it was May, it was nice weather. We went out, we started running in the street, and on the treadmill I can run. I would do 4 miles, let's say. When I went into the street, I can barely do a mile. I asked him, like, why is it so hard when you're doing the same thing? He says it's very different. When you're on a treadmill, you're not actually running. You're picking up your feet fast enough that you don't trip. It looks like you're running. When the guy's standing on the side, if you had a green screen behind you, it looks like you're actually running. But you're just lifting up your feet quick, that the street underneath you, that the rubber underneath you doesn't trip you.
Mm-hmm.
When you go onto the road, you actually, nothing's moving you. You're doing the exact same movement, but it's a whole different muscle. It's an entirely different experience. So it stuck with me. Stam, you do things, you're going through the actions, but it's practice. You can't actually know how you're going to perform until you're on the street. But you're doing all these things, you're doing, and then the day's going to come. You actually have to get on the street. You can't just start running on the street without going on the treadmill. It's the practice mode until you actually get out there. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
A lifetime.
So kamuvan vegan pashut, that you can't wait till you get to the street in order to put into practice. Like, right. It's so important. I mean, it's a funny concept, because when you don't need it, let's say when you're a bacher, you don't have any worries. So then it's not even part of your reality. But when you get older, but if you don't, if you go into the world, right, whatever you're doing, when you're in shlichus, you're in the world also, right? And then all of a sudden you have to face it, but you have no practice. So then you can't. There's no way you can do it. So it's so vital to really tap into this. The earlier, the better.
Yeah. It takes practice. It does. You're talking about it. I once asked a local guy, I said, when's the last time you spoke about God over dinner? He laughed at me. He's like, it's such an awkward conversation. Like if it's not part of the normal conversation to bring up those topics in good company. Like with your, like, what is the situation actually with your kid that you bring it up? Talk, in
What does that mean? What does that mean for our Elam?
If you don't proactively bring it up, it's a foreign topic. If it becomes part of the conversation, David Tal I think Shais has a vart b'shem David. David's daughter comes home from school one day and says, "Tab, homework. I have to tell a story of Hashgacha Pratis." So he says, "Okay, come." He goes to the front door, and he opens the door. He points out, he sees that car there. She says, "Yeah, okay, that's Hashgacha Pratis. The fact that you saw that car. That's the story."
Yeah.
She's like, but what happened? Like, no, that's the story. You saw that. That's the fact that you saw that car is the Eibishter running the world. It's not that, something bad has to happen and then I get saved because I missed my flight and the plane crashed. Why does the plane have to crash in order for me to see Hashgacha Pratis? Like the plane could survive and it's still Hashgacha Pratis. Like when you start talking that conversation, like, oh wow, Hashgacha Pratis, like just random that the Eibishter runs the world. Like that becomes part of the lexicon of the conversation. It's awkward lechatchila. It's a weird until you start doing it. It's a weird thing.
Right. Okay. So, any practical recommendations that you do to mechazik this concept? I see you have the sign behind you, the Ksav Yad of the Rebbe to Zalman Jaffe. Don't worry so much about business, more bitachon, more parnasa.
Yeah, I'm just here and I have my house. I just give it a kiss whenever I walk in the office. Whenever I'm overdrawn, it's like, I don't know. All these things, I've an aversion to. I don't know. Listen, every person, baby steps. People, everyone has to do things on their. Wherever you are now, do a drop more. Bringing it back to the original conversation of your opening monologue, your opening question about Limud Torah. For years, I Pasha didn't open a book. Like Mamish didn't open a book. I think I forgot to read Hebrew or something. I don't know. Whatever, life is distracted, and then I never opened a book. Now that we're already talking for a while, like Chitas Rambam might have happened, might not have happened. If I'm being honest with myself, it didn't happen. And whatever, the problem is it becomes a vicious cycle of once you're not doing it, you beat up and shame and guilt and all that stuff. Fast forward, the only way I'm able to do what I now sit 2.5 hours in the morning is mamish adding 5 minutes at a time, literally 5 minutes at a time. Like
there's a story of the Rebbe about that.
Go ahead.
The Rebbe told somebody, I think I know who it is, but I'm not 100% sure. The Rebbe told him, I think he asked the Rebbe about learning because it wasn't learning. The Rebbe said, learn for 5 minutes.
Right, and not more.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Can move on Vegan Pasha that the guy started learning 5.
Right.
He started at 10, started at 15, etc. And a friend of mine, Chassidish younger man, I can't talk to him because he's busy learning the whole Torah Chassidish parsha, like the Rebbe says. He's been mashlim it. He has no time to listen to the podcast because he's learning Torah. A number of years ago, he told me that there was like a tkufa that he wasn't learning anything. And he heard the story. He started 5 minutes every day, and now he's too busy finishing the Chassidish parsha to do anything else.
Mamish that, and having had an aversion, or I still have an aversion to like hachlatas and making resolutions and trying to change my life. For me, that's the only way that worked. Of literally like not trying to change my life, 5 minutes, and then adding one little thing. The beautiful thing about that is that once you have like an anchor, like if you brush your teeth every morning, it's easy when you're brushing your teeth to then add flossing. Like It's not requiring a lifelong change to add a new thing. Like you're already doing one thing, you add a little bit to it. And so you don't have to change your life to add one component to it. You're already, doing one thing, you add a little more. Once you have a foundation of an hour, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, and you let that grow. I know for myself, if I make a shear middle of the day, I'm never keeping it. Even a shear at night is hard for me. Like once you get home, it's days already. You never know where the day's going to go. You never know what the night's happening at night. It's just a little lately, Baruch Hashem, it works a little better. Just the house is quieter. But in the morning, it's still your time. The day hasn't gotten, I don't turn my phone on till 10:15, till 10:30. My phone's off from the night before. And by slowly incrementing that a little more, you still control your day. You still control your brain somewhat, your schedule. And you don't plan anything till 11 o'clock, till 12 o'clock. You don't plan anything. So in any area of trying to like implement these things, mamish, the smallest things that are done are really the only things that last or are true, genuine change. Anything that happens quickly, for me at least, doesn't persevere.
Okay. All right. This is a very uplifting conversation. And if anyone else benefits and makes one more achlata teva from it, whether in their mind or in Pel Mamish, and they're all connected. So it's well worth it.
The world's a better place thereof.
Yeah. Okay.
Tzlach Rabba.